Why are used Jaguars so cheap in 2025? Could it be constant oil leaks? Better competition? Building models nobody wants? Constant parts replacement program? Jaguar, like this, has struggled with all of those problems in the last couple of years, but there's a new set of challenges in 2025 and 2026. They're pointed in the wrong direction. Let's get into it now. What are we looking at right here? There's a whole lineup of Jag F-Paces. Now, these F-Paces are their mid-size SUV. Now, of course, there was an E-Pace that's no longer being built, an F-Type, which is also no longer being built. They've got a whole plethora of sedans like XE and XF that are no longer being built. That means the only vehicles in Jaguar's arsenal are these vehicles and the electrified I-Pace. It's hard to build excitement in the brand when people continually look around because there's no choices in Jaguar. I personally own an F-Type R a couple of years ago. I just sold it and I loved it. It was an amazing car. Supercharged V8 made the best sound in the industry. But they pretty much said they're making that go away. Then of course they started looking at some of the other models. XE, which was an affordable little sedan, they made that go away. The XF, which was slightly larger, it was getting old and dated. And that's the problem. That's a big problem for Jaguar. They didn't have enough relevant models in the lineup to keep customers continually coming back. So if you don't have new customers buying product, then you probably don't have used buyers buying products either, because it's always the new model that people get excited about. Even if they can't buy that new model, they save their pennies. 2 or 3 years later, many people just end up buying a slightly used version because they got excited about it 2 or 3 years ago. But they don't have that anymore. Those models don't exist, and they've canceled just about everything that was interesting to drive. And so the relevancy in the market is just dwindling away. Now, my experience has been pretty good with my Jag F-Type. I had it for about 4 years, and I didn't have any major repairs. But it did cost me anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 to maintain. And service charges and service costs are huge and cost prohibitive. Unfortunately, as these vehicles age and wind up with more miles on them, it gets much more expensive. And at about $250 an hour shop rate, a lot of people find it absolutely intolerable to continue maintaining those vehicles to that level. And every time I took my vehicle into the service shop, it was a pretty good experience. I never had any issues. The local dealer was amazing. They treated me well. It was respectful. It was a great experience all the way around. You're still paying for labor. Shop rates are high. Parts costs are extraordinarily high. And honestly, it's one of those things, a lot of times people just get scared of the perceived reliability. Now, Jaguar is no worse, from my experience personally, than anything you're going to find from Audi, BMW, Benz, Alfa. This perception of lacking reliability, once people throw those on the market, used car buyers are not looking for those because they're scared, they're afraid, unless the vehicle asking price is extraordinarily low and almost too good to be true. As people start to hear in the trends, and there's these ideas that people are buying them less and less and less, and they watch the news and they see sales nosediving, it's this influence that the mass populace is deciding to go somewhere else. Instead of buying a Jag, they're deciding, maybe I'll go buy that BMW, maybe I'll buy that Audi or some other alternative. You may have looked at that car, you may have driven it, and you may have been excited driving it, but unfortunately a lot of people see what the press is saying. They're seeing what other buyers are choosing, and people are often swayed. You know, it's almost sort of that sheep mentality. You see a flock go this way, better get on with that flock, and everybody sort of does that. And all these statistics and numbers start to hit, and then people realize, you know what, I don't need a Jag, I'll go somewhere else. As a matter of fact, how do you think Toyota does it for so long? Even with Toyota's lack in reliability in several of their models, their 3.4 issues, some of their other problems, electrics, and a few hybrid problems here and there, they've had their share of issues, but their reliability seems to be unwavered if you ask any loyalists, and people continue to buy Toyotas. It doesn't seem to stop them because they've carried that inertia, and there's enough people on the wagon saying, Toyota's reliable, I better buy a Toyota. From my experience, people shy away from Jaguars. In many cases, it's often not even justified, because I owned mine again for 4 years. Other than spending a few $1,000s or a couple grand a year for maintenance, which is definitely not insignificant, it's actually a joy to own. They ride well, they drive well. A few little glitches. I had a problem with my infotainment system and the SIM card, but outside of that, no mechanical hiccups whatsoever. Almost everything else mechanically, they seem to be spot on. Now, the next issue that people have in buying a used one and drives the prices down, reliability. They're not that unreliable in my own personal experience. That said, every car brand has a problem, that Achilles that just afflicts them and causes problems. And Jaguar is no different. One thing I can honestly say, the 2-liter turbo 4, the Ingenium engine that's That's their smaller turbo 4 that you get in some of the base models. Some of the vehicles equipped with that Ingenium engine have had issues, fuel leaks, oil consumption issues with some higher mileage, and there's been a few engine failures along the way. Another issue that I've seen personally is the infotainment system. They're very outdated. Models of other brands are clearly far more advanced when comparing directly to Jaguar. They feel like they're a little bit further behind. So you have infotainment, SIM card issues that I've personally had. If you drive in the diesel version, that's another issue. There's been cases with the diesels piling up, timing chain issues with the diesel engines. There's been lots of conversation about that. Unfortunately as well, carbon fouling, and there's a drive shaft that runs there. Allegedly, there was a conversation that there were bolts that were too short and the drive shaft was just a little bit too short and it could shear those bolts. You do have some cases with some of the V6s, some of the V8s that have that Y-pipe coolant leaks from time to time. They used a plastic Y-pipe that had some seams in it, would split, crack, and leak coolant. You definitely didn't want to neglect that. If you had any coolant leak, take care of it right away because that was probably a precursor to the imminent issues. Some of the rear differentials on the SVR versions or the F-Type Rs or some of the hot versions had an electronic differential. If they weren't properly ventilated or the vent wasn't cleaned out properly, they could in fact pile up. They'd build pressure and then they'd fail or blow a seal. Fuel injector issues, those are all some common issues that you're hearing about with Jaguars, whether you're talking about the V6, the V8s, and even some of the 4-cylinder Ingenium or diesel engines. Those are some of the most common problems in late model Jags. But you could pick out just about any car. Here, you got Theta 2 engine blowing up. You have oil consumption issues. Volkswagen, clock spring problems, oil consumption, timing chain problems. Cadillac, transmission issues, electronics, clock spring, other kind of problems there too in the steering wheel. Mitsubishi, the overall quality is just not there and it just doesn't seem to hold up. GMC, oil burning, timing chain piling up, and catastrophic engine failures. So the bottom line is, Jags are not perfect, but people actually blow up a lot of the issues and make them seem a lot worse. Unfortunately, that reputation is all over the forums, and a lot of it is well deserved, but a lot of it isn't, in my own personal opinion and experience, and that drives prices down. People get terrified, they get scared. If you had a Ford that had those kind of problems, people still buy them. Why? Because they trust it. It's Ford, it's built on North American soil, but people are scared because it's an import. It's a European model, high expensive maintenance costs, repair costs, high shop rates, and very expensive parts. A lot of the competition right now has some really great cars out there right now. Cars, SUVs, BMW, you have that new 4.4 turbo V6, V8. Here the M3 competition. Nobody will deny the superiority over most performance cars in this price tag, with carbon fiber, quad exhaust tips on these vehicles, LEDs, carbon wing on the back, carbon fiber roof, carbon mirrors, carbon accents and details, aggressive looking front grille. This is an absolute beast and an animal in the M3 competition. So that's just it. It's competition. You know, you've got X5s, X3s. They're very, very sorted out. You also have vehicles like Mercedes. They have the GLEs. You have C-Class Mercedes-Benz. You have all kinds of GLCs. You have Audis, and they're all in the same space. If you're looking for a luxury vehicle, you might look at an SQ5. Those are fun. They're essentially a rebadged Porsche Macan, which is almost perfection. Maybe you want something luxurious, but a little bit more practical. You got vehicles like this. What does Jaguar have of this capacity? Nothing. That's another segment of the market that has been missed by Jaguar. And again, North American buyers flock to these full-size SUVs. They're always a very popular genre, and that's just something that Jaguar is struggling with. So whether it's new or whether it's used, the competition is fierce. When people get excited to buy those new models, those hot new special models, then on the used car market 3 years later, that used car buyers looking at it in the same sense, and they also want that hot new model. But if there's no new models and it's kind of the same old year after year, month after month, and it all looks like vanilla yogurt, it's no wonder people are not buying them, either new or used. And there's a bigger problem in 2025, why Jaguar can't sell new cars, and more importantly, even on the used car market, nobody's picking them up. Now, these are great vehicles. I love the F-Pace. The facelift was needed. Then you have the wonderful and gloriously exciting F-Type Rs. And the F-Type, which means a sports car, rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive in the newer generations, in most cases now supercharged V8, 550 and beyond horsepower. They're absolutely glorious. This is the facelift. This is the older version like mine, and I love this headlight style better. And people got behind Jaguar. They loved it. It was a passion-driven manufacturer. People just salivated over the looks of this vehicle. I salivated over the looks of this. When I revved that up, it just, oh. And that's what Jaguar owners loved. They had this passion and this verve for the brand. Whether you wanted a hot rod, rear-wheel drive sports car like that, or whether you wanted the long, luxurious tank like the XJL, beautiful, luxurious. And that's what we all thrive for when we drive and buy these high-end premium luxury brands. But the problem is they started to shift. They moved over, Tata Motors took ownership. Then they tried transitioning, tried to bring in price point SUVs like the E-Pace and the XE. And of course that generally can help, but the problem is those products were even obsolete and they stuck around for a long time and the brand was getting stale. Most importantly, what's happening in 2025 is unfortunately they had to halt production because nobody was buying the brand, anything. Nobody was buying cars, SUVs, and as a matter of fact, they openly announced that they're going to the pure EV mode. They wanted to continue down the path of creating electrified vehicles like this, I-Pace, and while it looks sharp and it may have a great stance and a look overall and the design, the reality was the execution of it wasn't that amazing. It didn't get the best range, it didn't compete so well with the Teslas, and so it didn't do anything particularly well. It was sort of the jack of all trades and it was their early attempt. And if buyers of Jaguars learned one thing, is they start something and then they just sort of leave it and it hangs out there for a long period of time without any major changes, and that's a big problem. So sales started to nosedive and Jaguar openly admitted that they're stopping production on all their ICE vehicles. The only manufactured vehicle that they pretty much have today is the F-Pace and the I-Pace. And they're telling the public amidst this total rebrand that they actually kicked the last couple of loyalists off the wagon with that strange rebranding of Jaguar. Nobody wanted the brand, nobody wanted to be associated with it, and sales literally fell off the cliff. So things really started to take a turn once they tried to rebrand. The worst part is they didn't necessarily even renege and they kind of continued on that path and that journey. Once they eventually come back to production, which they said they're taking a year or two, who knows, they're taking a hiatus, they're going to be right in time for the electrified market. The big problem is the electrified market is looking for more affordable electric vehicles. What we don't need are $180,000 electric vehicles. Mercedes-Benz has proven that out. The G-Wagon, the electric G-Wagon's not selling. Neither are the EQS or EQE. They're not selling. And when they do, the secondary market is absolutely obliterating them. I've seen Mercedes EQSs trading hands on the secondary market or asking prices that were 70% off of the brand new, and that was after 2 years. It's absolutely devastating, and this looks to be the exact same response that customers are having for Jaguar. When all you have is a crowd of people that want something old, fun, fresh, but internal combustion driven, and you go this way instead, that's going to be a big world of hurt. And all of this change and these strange rebranding and this announcements of going pure EV literally has everybody abandoning the group. Now, can you get a great deal? Absolutely, because what you see for brand new F-Paces on any particular localized lot is literally all they have left. You cannot walk into the dealership, sit down and order up your own custom spec. Everything that's sitting on the lot today is what's available. As these slowly pick away and buyers really aren't buying them, they're not all that popular. Great models like the SVR here, F-Pace is one of the best looking, best sounding and most interesting Jaguars and SUVs on the market today. But this has a limited time offer, and once it's gone, you'll probably never ever see a loud screaming banshee SUV like this one. If you've never had an experience in an SVR, you're missing out. So there's an opportunity to get in on the wagon, get one of the last great Jaguars. If you're buying them on the used car market, there are mega deals because people are trying to unload them, dump them, get into something else, knowing full well that Jaguars are expensive, high cost, high maintenance, and they may not have a future. In case you're shopping around, why are used BMWs and used Benzes so cheap? In fact, you're going to want to check those out. If you've been shopping, there's a whole new host of reasons there too. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one, everybody. See you then. Bye-bye.